He thinks I'm working for free. I don't work for free. It's a different political environment we're in now. Okay. I'm now about to talk about a prize-winning foreign correspondent of The Independent who also writes for the London Review of Books. In fact, my wife, who doesn't even know him, recognized the name. We were in Pakistan together 2 weeks ago. She recognized his name from the London Review of Books. He's covered the Middle East, especially Iraq, for the past 30 years and previously worked for the Financial Times. He's become a renowned commentator and authority on Iraq and its politics, and he's the author of 3 books on the subject. Out of the Ashes, The Resurrection of Saddam Hussein, co-authored with Andrew Cockburn, written before the Second Iraq War of 2003, The Occupation, War, and Resistance in Iraq, and his 2008 book on Muqtada al-Sadr and the Fall of Iraq, on the recent history of the Sadr family and the development of the Sadrist movement. More recently, he's been writing extensively on Afghanistan. But I want to go personal here. 3 weeks ago, we were on this trip with Myra McDonald from Reuters and 3 other journalists. I don't know why they included me. But we were on a government of Pakistan-sponsored trip. And then at the end of our trip, we were supposed to go back to London, but the volcano came. So luckily, a tribal leader who happened to be a senator in the parliament and a friend of mine invited Patrick, myself, and Richard Beeston to his area, which happens to be adjacent to South Waziristan. And we spent a couple of days there, and I've never read such a good assessment of our visit there than in his 22 April, Patrick's 22 April commentary on that. He describes so well how the villages are squeezed between the Taliban on the one hand and the army on the other hand. And what a difficult situation it is, and yet what a hopeful situation it is. So it gives me great pleasure to what? To go to the TV. Okay. It gives me pleasure to go to the television.
I do, but it seemed I was surrounded by so many journalists, it seemed a kind of natural thing. Deep suspicion of the way things are, deep suspicion of the motives of the powers that be. Rooted in this long history of the country, above all, this religious history of the Shia.
Important, and everybody, including US commanders, admit this was one of the reasons why there's been something of a fall in violence in Iraq.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Well, thank you so much. I feel delighted to get this award, and I'm very honored by it. As Jonathan said, we were both recently in Pakistan when I first heard about this meeting. I didn't know I'd won a prize. And a rather bizarre journey that, first of all, the real difficulty seemed to be to getting into the northwest frontier up to the Afghan border, which with some difficulty we did. And then, with a sigh of relief, got back to Islamabad to find that the real problem was getting back to London Heathrow because the volcanic eruption in Iceland. So we then went back to the northwest frontier. We finally ended up in Karachi. I don't recommend spending the night in the airport there, and on to Istanbul. But finally, I'm here, and I'm very grateful for this award. One thing that did strike me when I was in the northwest frontier, which is a ferocious war, little covered by the media because of the obscurity of the place and the difficulty and danger of getting there, that there really is a reason why journalists should cover Iraq, Palestine, these other places. Sometimes one feels disheartened that all these terrible things go on happening despite the fact one goes on writing about them. But when you cover a place where terrible things are happening that nobody is writing about, you realize that it's that bit worse. So many thanks again for this prize, and many thanks for being here this evening. Thank you.